You're telling me that humans are the only species to pass the test? High Counselor Zix's crystalline appendages trembled with disbelief, sending rainbow-like refractions across the chamber walls. The same humans who still watch videos of their own species falling downstairs for entertainment. Precisely your luminescence. Administrator Vati adjusted his sensory stalks uncomfortably. Though I feel compelled to point out that they also watch videos of their juvenile felines doing the same thing, they find both equally amusing. The High Counselor's crystalline form dimmed slightly, the equivalent of a weary sigh among the prismatic collective. Explain it to me again from the beginning. Vate's holochart flickered to life, displaying a timeline of galactic civilization spanning several million years. As you know, we've been conducting first contact evaluations for approximately 47,000 standard cycles. The sentience qualification test was designed to be the ultimate measure of a species' readiness to join the galactic community. Yes, yes, Zix growled, interrupting. Their crystals took on an impatient orange hue. Skip to the relevant part. Of course. Ven's holochart zoomed into a particular section. The test has 3 components: problem-solving, ethical reasoning, and adaptive response. Every species we've encountered has failed at least one component. The Zorian, despite their 17 cerebral lobes, couldn't solve the quantum maze. The hive mind of Epsilon Aradani got stuck in an ethical loop, debating the morality of pressing the start button. And well, we don't talk about what happened with the Glorin Collective. We lost 3 testing facilities that day. Zix reminisced grimly. They're still apologizing with interpretive dance performances. Indeed. But humans? Vate's sensory stalks wiggled with a mixture of amazement and confusion. They approached it differently. CH Earth hours earlier. Sarah Chen stared at the glowing alien console before her, trying to make sense of the instructions floating in perfect English, or whatever passed for English in alien translation technology. She was humanity's randomly selected representative for this supposedly important test, chosen by what the aliens called the quantum lottery. But what she suspected was more like throw a dart at a list of names. So let me get this straight, she said, addressing the floating orb that served as her proctor. This is a test to determine humanity's readiness to join the galactic community, correct? The orb chimed pleasantly. The test consists of 3 parts, and you randomly selected a high school physics teacher from Cleveland. Our selection process is beyond your current level of comprehension, the orb replied, managing to sound both polite and condescending at the same time. Sarah snorted. Buddy, I teach 9th grade physics. Nothing is beyond my level of comprehension anymore. I once had to explain why eating Tide Pods was bad using Newton's laws of motion. The orb's glow flickered briefly, possibly processing this information. The test will begin now. Part 1, problem solving. You must navigate a quantum maze. Quick question, Sarah interrupted, raising her hand out of habit. Are there any rules against using external resources? The orb paused. I don't understand the question. Like, is this open book? Can I phone a friend? Use my lifelines? You know, basic game show stuff. This is not a game show. This is a serious evaluation of your species' cognitive capabilities. Sarah grinned. You didn't say no. She pulled out her smartphone, which surprisingly had 5 bars of service in an alien testing facility, and opened her group chat. Sarah. Hey nerds, alien test time. Need help with a quantum maze. Dr. Brain. Brian. Like actual alien test? Sarah. Yep, fate of humanity and all that. Rocket Girl. Jess. Oh my god, cool. Send pic. Sarah. Image attached. Quantum Queen. Ma. Oh, that's just a 4D Klein bottle. Too easy. Dr. Brain. Brian. Classic quantum tunneling puzzle. Sarah. Cool. How do I solve it? Rocket Girl. Jess. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Quantum Queen, Ma. First you'll need to... 20 minutes and several memes later. Sarah had not only solved the quantum maze, but had also found 3 shortcuts and 1 bug in the system that technically allowed for negative completion time. The orb seemed to be in a state of shock. Its glow dimmed to a confused flicker. That's not... You can't. Part 2, Sarah prompted cheerfully. The ethical reasoning test? The orb continued, sounding less certain now. You must evaluate a complex moral dilemma involving... Oh, like the trolley problem? The what? You know, the classic ethics thought experiment. Trolley heading towards 5 people. You can pull a lever to divert it, to kill 1 person instead. Philosophy 101 stuff. This is far more complex than that. We've been arguing about that one for centuries. There are like 10,000 variations. My favorite is the one with the trolley doing a loop-to-loop. The orb's glow turned slightly pink. This is different. You must consider the implications of... Hold on, let me check something. Sarah was already typing on her phone. Sarah. Guys, alien ethical reasoning test. Thoughts, philosophy, fan, Pete, hit me. Sarah, image attached. Philosophy, fan, Pete. Oh, that's just Kant's categorical imperative with extra steps. Dr. Brain. Brian. LOL. They made the prisoner's dilemma into a real thing. Rocket Girl. Jess. Multirack drifting. Quantum Queen. Ma. Guys. Focus. An hour later, Sarah had not only resolved the ethical dilemma, but had also submitted a peer-reviewed paper's worth of citations, including references to 3 different philosophical traditions and a relevant XKCD comic. The orb was now making a sound that might have been the machine equivalent of hyperventilating. This is not... You're not supposed to... Final part? Sarah asked, taking a sip from her water bottle. The adaptive response test, the orb stated, its voice carrying a hint of desperation. You must demonstrate your species' ability to handle unexpected situations. And cool, like improv. Sarah was already sending another message. Sarah, final round, need creative problem-solving ideas. Improv master. Kyle, yes, first rule of improv, always say yes. Artistic Alex, break conventional patterns. Rocket Girl. Jess, Chaos Monkey. Dr. Brain. Brian, have you considered explosions? Sarah, guys, I'm trying to save humanity here. Rocket Girl. Jess, exactly. Controlled explosions. Quantum Queen Ma, what about... The next 2 hours involved Sarah implementing what she later described as a combination of MacGyver, performance art, and that one time the chemistry lab had to be evacuated. The solution involved 3 TikTok dances, a detailed explanation of why cats always land on their feet, with accompanying YouTube videos, and a small controlled fusion reaction that she swears was totally safe, mostly. By the end, the orb had gone completely silent, its glow reduced to a confused pulse. And that's what happened, Vati concluded, their sensory stalks drooping slightly. She passed all 3 parts with what they call flying colors, though I must note that colors don't actually fly in any known dimension. High Counselor Zix's crystalline form had taken on a deep blue hue of contemplation. So let me understand this correctly. When faced with the most complex test we could devise, one that has stumped the greatest minds in the galaxy, the human's response was to ask her friends for help. Not just her friends, Vate corrected. She also consulted something called Wikipedia, watched several YouTube tutorials, and at one point used something called Reddit, where she received 7,432 responses in under an hour, including 3 detailed mathematical proofs and 1 recipe for chocolate chip cookies. But that's cheating, Zix's crystals flashed with indignation. Actually, Vate said carefully, we reviewed the test parameters. Nowhere does it state that the representative must solve the problems alone. We designed it to test species capability, not individual capability. We just never considered that any species would think to solve it collectively. Are you saying that humans' great innovation, their unique solution that no other species conceived of in 47,000 cycles, was to just ask others for help? Not exactly, your luminescence. Their innovation was not seeing it as a test at all. To them, it was just another problem to solve. No different from what did she call it? Helping students with their homework. They treated one of the most sophisticated evaluation systems in the galaxy like it was a group project. Zix's crystalline form shifted through several colors before settling on a peculiar shade of mauve. And the quantum maze shortcuts, the ethical framework citations, the controlled fusion reaction, all documented, peer-reviewed, and apparently now trending on something called TikTok. The human has already submitted a paper to their RXI about the quantum maze shortcuts, and the ethical framework she provided is being studied by our philosophers as we speak. Apparently, humans have been debating the concept since before they discovered electricity, but the fusion reaction was perfectly safe, Vate assured quickly. Though our engineers are still trying to understand how she achieved it using only a smartphone, 2 paper clips, and something called a Starbucks gift card. The High Counselor was silent for a long moment, their crystalline forms cycling through various shades of thought. Finally, they spoke. So what you're telling me is that humans, when faced with a challenge beyond their individual capabilities, ask for help? Yes. And when confronted with complex moral dilemmas, they debate them endlessly and share memes about them? Yes. And when required to demonstrate adaptive problem-solving, they treat it like entertainment and document everything for their social media followers. Zix's form suddenly brightened to a brilliant white. Don't you see what this means, Administrator? Vate's sensory stalks quivered questioningly. Every other species we've tested has tried to prove their worth as individuals. The Zorian with their 17 cerebral lobes, the hive mind with its collective consciousness, even the Glorin collective with their interpretive dance. But humans didn't try to prove anything. They just did what they always do. They turned it into a group activity, made it fun, and solved it together, while simultaneously making jokes about it. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that while every other species treated our test as a solemn challenge, humans treated it like a Tuesday. And in doing so, they demonstrated exactly why they're ready for the galactic community. They don't take themselves too seriously. They're willing to ask for help. They document and share knowledge freely. And most importantly, yes, they've somehow weaponized their own inability to take anything seriously into a problem-solving methodology that works better than anything we've seen in 47,000 cycles. Zix considered this. So, they pass? They pass, Vate confirmed, their crystals now glowing with amused acceptance. Though I suspect we're the ones who just learned something. Send the acceptance notification. Already done, your luminescence. The human posted it on her Instagram before she left the testing facility. It's already received something called 1 million likes and several thousand comments asking if aliens are verified on Twitter yet. Zix's form flickered with what might have been a chuckle. You know. Know what, Administrator? I think the galaxy just got a lot more interesting. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Sarah Chen walked into her 9th grade physics class the next morning, coffee in hand, looking no different than any other day. Her students, however, were practically vibrating with excitement. Miss Chen, is it true you took an alien test yesterday? Did you really solve a quantum maze? My mom saw your TikTok about the fusion reaction. Sarah took a calm sip of her coffee. Yes, yes, and tell your mum thanks for the tip about the gift card catalyst. It worked perfectly. She set her coffee down and picked up her teacher marker. Now, who's ready to learn about quantum mechanics? Trust me, after yesterday, I've got some really interesting real-world applications to share. The class erupted in cheers, and Sarah couldn't help but smile. Maybe being humanity's randomly selected representative wasn't such a bad gig after all. At least it would make for one hell of a how I spent my summer vacation story at the next faculty meeting. As she began writing on the board, her phone buzzed with a new notification. Galactic Council has joined Twitter. Galactic Council is now following you. Sarah grinned. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all. Miss Chen, are we really going to have an alien exchange student? Sarah looked up from her phone, where she'd been reading the latest Galactic Council orientation package, now available as a surprisingly well-designed app. Her classroom was buzzing with even more energy than usual, if that was possible. Actually, Tommy, we're getting 3, she replied, unable to keep the amusement out of her voice. Apparently, after my test results went viral, half the galaxy's species want to study our educational methods, even the ones that look like talking crystals. Emma asked from the back row, not even trying to hide the fact that she was live-streaming the entire conversation. Especially them. Sarah pulled up the holographic display that had been installed in her classroom overnight, apparently standard issue for all Earth schools now. Now the Prismatic Collective is particularly interested in our... She checked her notes. Remarkably chaotic, yet effectively optimized information transmission methodologies. They mean memes, don't they? Someone called out. They absolutely mean memes, Sarah confirmed. In fact, hold on, let me check something. She pulled out her phone and opened her now significantly more exotic group chat. Sarah, at High Counselor Zix, quick question about the orientation package. High Counselor Zix, greetings, Educator Chen. We are still adapting to your text-based communication protocols. Rocket Girl Jess, OMG, you don't have to use caps lock, your luminescence. High Counselor Zix, oh, this is more comfortable. Thank you. Rocket Girl Jess, Quantum Queen. Did anyone else see the quantum physics curriculum they sent? It's interesting. Dr. Brain Brian. Interesting? Like, wow, cool? Or interesting like, oh no? Quantum Queen Ma. Interesting like they're still using string theory unironically. Sarah. Actually, that's what I wanted to ask about the curriculum integration guidelines. High Counselor Zix. Ah yes, we've prepared extensive documentation. Sarah. I was thinking we could do it potluck style. High Counselor Zix. I don't understand this term. Potluck? Rocket Girl. Jess. Space potluck, improv master. Kyle. Yes, and space barbecue. High Counselor. Zix. What is happening? Sarah. Trust me, it'll work better than any official guidelines. Sarah looked up from her phone to find her entire class watching her expectantly. Good news, everyone! We're having a potluck next week to welcome our Galactic exchange students. Bad news! We need to figure out what foods are safe for crystalline life forms. The class erupted in excited chatter, and Sarah could already see students pulling up research on their devices. She hadn't even assigned it as homework. They were just genuinely curious. Sometimes she wondered if the aliens had any idea what they were getting themselves into. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, High Counselor Zix was experiencing what humans might call a moment of clarity. Administrator Venate, they called out, their crystalline form shifting through thoughtful hues. I believe we may have miscalculated. Venate's sensory stalks perked up with concern. About the humans? Your luminescence? Yes, We thought passing our test meant they were ready for the galactic community. Zix's form sparkled with what might have been a laugh. But I'm beginning to suspect that we weren't ready for them. Is this about the meme economy they're trying to establish with the Zorian partially? Ven8 asked. Did you know the humans have already created something called TikTok tutorials for proper crystalline being care and maintenance? There's one about optimal light refraction angles that has over 10 million views. 10 million? Zix's form shifted to a color of incredulity. And the comment section is full of genuine scientific discourse mixed with something called puns? Ven8 adjusted their feeds uncomfortably. The hive mind of Epsilon Aradani has reported similar phenomena. Apparently, they've become addicted to something called cat videos. The Glorin Collective's interpretive dance performances are now trending on multiple human social media platforms. Zix continued. They've been invited to something called America's Got Talent. Should we be concerned? Zix's form shifted to a shade that indicated deep contemplation. You know what the most fascinating part is? The humans aren't just sharing their knowledge. They're actively learning from every species they encounter. That physics teacher, Sarah Chen, she's already incorporating quantum maze principles into her curriculum. Her students solved in weeks what took our scientists centuries to develop. But they're still making jokes about it, Ven8 said. They're making jokes while doing it. That's what makes them unique. Every other species we've encountered treats knowledge as something solemn and serious. Humans treat it like a potluck. Exactly. Zix's form brightened. Everyone brings something to the table. Everyone shares, and somehow the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. Even when they're being completely ridiculous, they're learning and teaching and innovating. The latest reports show that human educational methodologies are being adopted by 17 different species. Ven8 noted, their group project approach to problem solving has increased efficiency across multiple sectors by an average of 300% and decreased solemnity by about 1,000%. Zix's form twinkled with amusement. Should we update our first contact protocols? Oh, absolutely, Ven8 agreed. But first, Zix's form brightened. I need to respond to this group chat. Apparently, there's going to be a potluck, and I need to figure out what kind of dish a crystalline being can bring to a human gathering. Back in Cleveland, Sarah was wrapping up her class for the day when her phone buzzed with a new notification. Hi, Counselor Zixtal. Would what you call crystal candy be an appropriate potluck contribution? We can modify our molecular structure to be safely digestible by carbon-based life forms. Rocket Girl Jess, Space Rock Candy. Dear Brain Brian, we're going to need to update the food pyramid. Quantum Queen Mai, technically, we'd need to update it to a food hypercube. Sarah, as long as it doesn't violate any laws of physics. Actually, you know what? Even if it does, my students could use a good physics paradox to solve. Hi, Counselor Zix. I've been informed this combination of symbols indicates amusement. Improv Master Kyle. They grow up so fast. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. The galaxy might not have been ready for humans, but humans were definitely ready for the galaxy. After all, any species that had spent millennia making jokes about their own existence was probably well prepared for whatever the universe had to offer. As she packed up her things, she noticed one last message pop up. Galactic Council Educational Committee. Urgent request for clarification on the concept of spring break. Sarah grinned. The universe had no idea what it was in for. Okay, who uploaded our class field trip video to Galactic Talk? Sarah asked, surveying her classroom with what she hoped was a stern expression. It was hard to maintain authority when one of your students had just become a viral sensation across 17 star systems. Every hand in the room shot up. "We all did," Emma announced proudly. "Different angles." The hive mind said something about comprehensive documentation being crucial for xenoanthropological studies. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. "The hive mind has been spending too much time on Instagram." "Actually, they prefer Be Real now," Tommy chimed in. "They say it's more authentic." Before Sarah could process that particular piece of information, her classroom's holographic display flickered to life, revealing High Counselor Zix's crystalline form, now sporting what appeared to be a Cleveland Browns jersey, somehow integrated into their molecular structure. "Educator Chen," they began, their crystals twinkling with barely contained excitement, "we need to discuss yesterday's field trip to the mall." "Listen," Sarah started, "I can explain about the food court incident." "Explain it?" Zix's form shifted through rainbow hues of enthusiasm. "Never in our history has anyone considered using a combination of frozen dairy products and electromagnetic field manipulation to demonstrate quantum entanglement principles. Ms. Chen just wanted to show us how Dippin' Dots are made," one student muttered. "Exactly," Zix exclaimed. "You turned a simple frozen treat into an impromptu lesson on molecular gastronomy and quantum physics. The video has been viewed by every major scientific institution in the galaxy. The Zorian are already implementing ice cream labs in their advanced physics courses." Sarah's phone buzzed. "Rocket Girl Jess, did you guys see the Zorian ice cream labs?" Dr. Brain. "Brian, their 17 cerebral lows came up with 394 new flavors in an hour." Quantum Queen Mai. "Quantum chocolate ripple actually breaks several laws of physics." Improv Master Kyle. "But does it taste good?" High Counselor Zixtal. "The Glorin Collective is preparing an interpretive dance about brain freeze." Sarah. "Guys, please, I'm trying to teach a class." Philosophy Fan. Pete. "But consider the philosophical implications of ice cream that exists in multiple states simultaneously." Sarah. "Okay, that's actually interesting." Ms. Chen. A blue-tinted crystalline student, one of their exchange students, Zixtal, no relation to the High Counselor, apparently that's just a common name pattern, raised what passed for a hand. "Is it true that humans invented ice cream before they discovered quantum mechanics?" "Oh, honey," Sarah smiled. "Humans invented ice cream before we discovered regular mechanics. We're very good at finding delicious things first and figuring out the science later." The class's other exchange student, a young Zor Blackan named Vup, currently using only 3 of their cerebral lows in accordance with age-appropriate learning guidelines, wiggled their thought tendrils thoughtfully. "Is that why your species' scientific archives are full of food metaphors like the plum pudding model of the atom?" "And don't forget the quantum hamburger," Tommy added helpfully. Sarah seized the opportunity. "Actually, that brings us to today's lesson. We're going to talk about how different species conceptualize scientific principles through cultural metaphors. For example, the prismatic collective uses light refraction patterns to explain molecular bonds, while the Zorblans use neural resonance frequencies. The next hour flew by in a whirlwind of cross-cultural scientific analogies, with students from 3 different species building increasingly elaborate metaphors for everything from gravity to dark matter. Somewhere around the time they started comparing black holes to various Earth foods, with surprisingly accurate mathematical parallels, Sarah noticed that the High Counselor was still watching. Their crystalline form was taking on the deep blue shade of intense concentration. After class, her phone lit up again. "Hi, Counselor Zixtal. The Galactic Council's Educational Committee has a proposal." Sarah. If this is about the food court incident again... High Counselor Zix. No, though the Quantum Ice Cream Initiative is proceeding excellently. Hi, Counselor Zixtal, we want to establish an interspecies teacher exchange program. Sarah, go on. Hi, Counselor Zixtal. Your methods of combining education with what you call chaos energy have proven surprisingly effective. Rocket Girl Jess, space teacher exchange. Der Brain Brian, does this mean we get to see alien schools too? Quantum Queen Mai, I have so many questions about their math curriculum. High Counselor Zix. Actually, we were hoping Educator Chen would help design the program. Sarah. Me? Why? High Counselor Zix. You turned a mall food court into an advanced physics laboratory. You explained quantum entanglement using frozen desserts. Your students are teaching our species new ways to think about science. High Counselor Zixtal, and most importantly, Improv Master Kyle, you make it fun. Sarah leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. An interspecies teacher exchange program, her classroom experiments going galaxy-wide, the chance to see how other species approached education. Sarah, one condition. High Counselor Zixtal, name it. Sarah, we're going to need a bigger food court. In the depths of space aboard the Galactic Council's main educational facility, Administrator Ven 8 was reviewing the latest reports with a mixture of awe and terror. Your luminescence, they addressed Zix, who was currently experimenting with different jersey colors in their crystalline structure. The humans have submitted their proposal for the teacher exchange program, and it includes something called Field Trip Fridays, intergalactic bake sales, and science fair projects. Excellent! Zix's form sparkled. The hive mind is particularly excited about the bake sale concept. They've already started experimenting with psychic pastries. But your luminescence, Ven's sensory stalks quivered with concern. Are we sure this is proper educational protocol? Zix's form sparkled with what had become their equivalent of a knowing smile. Administrator, do you remember what we learned from their test results? That humans approach problems differently. That humans make everything better by making it ridiculous. Their greatest strength isn't their intelligence or their creativity. It's their ability to have fun while doing impossible things. Their crystals shifted to a warm, amused purple. Did you know they've already started a betting pool on which species will win the first intergalactic science fair? Is that appropriate? Ven 8 asked. The Glorin Collective has already prepared 7 different victory dances, just in case, Zix said. Zix's form brightened. Oh, and speaking of which, their appearance on America's Got Talent went viral across 3 galaxies. They're going on tour. Ven 8 processed this information slowly. The galaxy is becoming more chaotic. Isn't it gloriously so? Zix agreed, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Back in Cleveland, Sarah was putting the finishing touches on her proposal for the teacher exchange program when she received one final message for the day. Galactic Council Educational Committee, new inquiry, multiple species requesting clarification on the concept of pizza party. Dr. Brain Brian, oh, this is going to be good. Rocket Girl Jess, space pizza. Quantum Queen Mai, technically in zero gravity. Sarah, one crisis at a time, people. First, we need to figure out how to make pizza safe for crystalline consumption. Hi, Counselor Zix. We are willing to temporarily modify our molecular structure for this important cultural exchange. Improv Master Kyle. Now that's commitment to education. Sarah smiled as she locked up her classroom. On her desk, a stack of permission slips waited to be signed, not for the usual trip to the museum or the zoo, but for next week's excursion to the Zorblacken Science Academy's new ice cream laboratory. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the Glorin Collective practicing their latest dance routine in the school auditorium. The universe, she decided, was finally getting interesting. To be continued.